Well, hello, Tina, and welcome to our
Hi.
our subconscious speaks, everyone. It's me and Tina.
Yeah, look at
Did
that.
you miss us? We're
Nice of us.
back. Yes,
How you
Don was,
been?
huh?
How you
I've
been?
been busy.
Mm-hmm.
The trip to Florida was fast and furious. It was amazing. Had a great time. Exhausted, got hurt, like all the things.
All the things.
Heart beat a little faster.
Mhm.
It was a lot of goodness. There
Good.
was a fight at the hockey game. It was very eventful. I did
Okay.
not fight anyone, but I may have had something to do with a fight breaking out. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Yeah, it was
Can't
a
take you anywhere.
no, you can actually, but yeah. Um and then I'm just gonna start with a pet peeve. Um And I just want to go like R-rated language right now because it just really irks me. Both times that I usually tend to, I don't want to affirm this, but I have an occasion to getting sick when I travel to and from Florida because I'm on that plane trapped with people coughing and sneezing and wheezing. And literally, the lady next to me, jam-packed flight, center seat, coughing three-fourths of the time there on the way back. And I just like, I almost went into my bag. I carry an extra mask that's like fresh. I was almost going to give it to her and say, "Would you please wear this? Because I shouldn't have to wear a mask because you're coughing."
Right.
And I get like, travel's expensive and rearranging and making changes. Like if you're coughing and don't feel well, you shouldn't get on the damn plane.
That's very true. Buy the insurance, change the flight,
Yeah, well, that's
or
not
wear a mask. Like
yeah,
that's what they would ask you to do in a hospital.
right.
I mean, if you're the ill one, wear the mask.
Mm, yeah. So yeah, so I'm still coughing, still have a sore throat a week later. So, which
Fun.
isn't bad, big picture, right? Like being, there's so many different weird kind of odd sicknesses going around right now.
Yeah,
Can you
it's
catch
that
some
season.
version of what like and then there's like the RVS or something.
I don't know.
There's all sorts of government diseases that are being spread.
I don't let the psyop in, so
Huh?
I'm not letting the psyop in.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. Yeah. Uh So yeah, so 2 weeks. It seems like forever ago since we recorded an episode. So I know there'll be some happy campers tomorrow when we post the
mhm,
episode. Today
mhm.
being the 8th.
Yes,
Happy almost daylight. Well, nope,
it's
tomorrow.
tonight,
It's
right?
tonight. Well,
It's
tomorrow
tonight.
morning technically. It goes back at like 2 a.m. or something or
Yeah,
forward,
yeah.
spring forward.
Spring forward,
So
fall back.
we lose a sleep unless you're smart enough to just turn everything off and sleep and let your body sleep its normal cycle, which
Yeah,
was for me like 7-ish hours. Like
that's
this
what has
morning, I
happened.
didn't set an alarm and I was like, I'm just going to sleep until I wake up. And I woke up after 7.5 hours and I was like, just get
Hmm.
up.
Hmm.
Like it was
Yeah.
before I planned on getting up, but I was like, nah,
Well,
just get up. It's okay.
yeah,
Because my
yeah.
mind says, oh, you don't feel well and you're still recovering. You should give your body time to rest and all that. But it's not like I'm running a marathon during the day over here. Okay. There's a lot
No?
of reclining going on. And there may be a blankie involved. And how are you? I missed
I'm
you.
good. I know, I missed you too. I'm glad.
I haven't been in a chatting mood. Like anyone close to me knows that like my texting has fallen off considerably just because
I know.
I just don't want to. And it's
Mm,
not about you or, not loving you any less.
mm,
It's just not my bag. Like
hmm.
it's just me and the TV, man, and the blankie. And tea.
Okay.
Lots of tea. And I
Hmm.
have a lemon tree. I don't know if you've seen the lemon tree in my backyard,
Hmm.
and it's like pulling fresh lemons off and squeezing. Ah, so good. It's
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're on the mend. Um,
Thank
It's
you. How
wonderful
have
to
you
see
been?
you. I am here.
Uh-oh.
I'm good.
That's
No, I'm good.
loaded.
No,
What do you
I'm
mean
good.
I am here? What is
I'm
that is
here
like,
and accounted for. No, I'm good. I'm
all
good.
right.
Busy, work. Um,
That's good. So
yeah.
let I'm sorry everybody. Come along for the ride for a moment while Tina and I actually catch up as friends. We'll get into a topic, I promise. But well, first of all, welcome to our Subconscious Speaks. This is my dear friend Tina. I'm Don. Together we are.
Tina Orlando.
And Don. Gotta get the joke in because our
Yeah,
listeners are like,
absolutely.
wait a minute, what is he doing?
He's not saying
He
it.
didn't say the thing like that we all enjoy.
Yeah.
Want to be respectful to the loyal listeners because there's
Absolutely.
several of them that love our
Yeah.
podcast and we
They're
love
they're
you.
waiting for the but I'm
Yeah,
bump.
yeah. I may have
Mhm.
had a special person reach out to me and so am I getting an episode to listen to tomorrow? And I'm like, it's a game time call, which means no, it's not.
Oh.
That was last week. No, wait,
Oh,
was that last week or the week before I
that
was
was last.
in Florida?
You were in Florida 2 weeks ago
Last week
last
I
week,
was
and you
sick as a
weren't
dog.
feeling well. Yeah.
Oh my God, Tina. I've been so busy and I had multiple clients this week. Yesterday had two really long sessions and I at the end of the second session, like when I was getting to doing the hypnosis portion, I hadn't done it. I hadn't gone there yet
Hmm.
and I couldn't stop coughing. My throat
Hmm.
just seized up on me and I was like, "Oh my God, what the hell am I going to
Hmm.
do?"
Cough drops. They help, especially if you talk a lot. The
Yeah.
queen herself uses them just because your throat will get dry depending on how you talk.
Uh-huh.
Like she's a master at it. So the queen,
Are we talking about
Michelle.
Cheryl?
Michelle. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just
Hmm.
checking.
Hmm.
Yeah,
The
the
queen.
queen is the queen and the prince of HMI are putting on a show today. They're over
Hmm.
doing the all day immersive event,
Hmm.
and I was going to volunteer to participate, but I don't. In the spirit of bringing a cough onto a plane, I'm not bringing a lingering, not feeling so
Right.
great cough to HMI. I could take down
Right.
the school. You got like George, everybody's there today. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but Joe and Cheryl are doing AHAs today, doing new. Joe's got a new modality he's rolling out. I'm
I know. You
kind
know
of
me.
excited to hear about. I'm
Um,
sure we will.
yes, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Um, I would have, loved to go, but you know.
Uh-huh. I do. Yeah. All right. So you're here, but that insinuated that like what? So are you just not in a sharing mood? Like what's going on? Are you all right? Are you,
Yeah,
so,
I'm
oh,
good.
okay, fine. You don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that you said you're busy. So that means like what's going on over in the Palisades? Like what's going on with traffic and what, because if you don't remember everybody, Tina does this horrific drive every day because she works over on what we call the west side, which is
Hmm.
over the canyon, the mountain right with that
The
has the
big
Hollywood
405.
sign on it, the
Hmm.
405. Because
Hmm.
you have to go 405. You can't go through a canyon now, right? They're all
There's,
closed.
yeah, you cannot go through Topanga. You
Laurel's
can
open
go,
though, right?
Laurel is open, but
But
Laurel's on the other
that's
side.
not a that's not
Yeah.
a that's not a good way to go.
No,
It's a
no,
cool
but
drive, but not for traffic.
no.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you can't take Topanga. You could go through Malibu Canyon, but you cannot go south on PCH. PCH is technically closed unless you are either press pass, security, um,
Huh.
National
Essential
Guard.
worker, maybe? Do they get the
No,
no?
no, they do not.
Interesting.
Not necessarily. If you live in certain areas of Malibu, you might be able to get a pass to drive through. I
Okay.
have some clients that can't get through, and I have some clients that can.
Gotcha.
Um, but vast majority of my clients are either now finding a permanent solution, short-term permanent solution. So it's just a lot right now.
Yeah.
Um, it's really challenging. I've had to change my hours, like, because it takes me over an hour and a half to get to work if I leave after, get this, after 6 a.m. and I mean after like 6:05. So if I actually leave at 5:30, I can get there by 6:15.
Wow.
Mind you, I don't start work till 7.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I'm here,
Yeah.
braving it out.
All right.
So
Cool.
there is that.
Well, it's good to see you.
It's wonderful to see you.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of challenges, I was talking to a friend of mine about how you I think maybe we've talked about this on the podcast that you embrace the challenging clients that
Love
that
them.
that seem to you attract the
I love
challenges.
them. Hmm.
I don't know what you did. You did some sort of Freaky Friday thing with because like all of a sudden I'm getting like these interesting clients that I had a guy yesterday, super like he studied the subconscious. He knows about hypnosis. He's tried it before, but he didn't have a great experience with it. Like he literally said to me, I was asking, so what was it like? What did you? He said it was like 3 hours long. And at the end of it, he walked away thinking, that's it. And I was like, what? How is that? What would you do for 3 hours? That I just like, so, yeah, he was challenging because, I want to do well by doing good and I want to help people. And he was coming to me with limiting beliefs and feeling stuck.
Clearly.
Yeah. Um, Sometimes we get all caught up. I'm guilty of this. I think a lot of people are. They get caught up in what is called the paralysis of analysis of just
Hmm.
overthinking.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, I kind of really enjoyed explaining to him why he can't affect this change, this deep seated shift on his own. And then, when you had mentioned a possible topic for today, I was like, oh, perfect. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because it seems like
Hmm.
I've been talking a lot about suggestibility and like like explaining what hypnosis is and isn't. It seems like there's this cycle that keeps happening at HMI because I'm teaching those 10 elements of the Capistinian model.
Mm.
Of course, pre-induction and theory of mind are like the top two. That's what you start with in every
Hmm.
session. Not every session, the first session. So it's just very interesting that you asked that because I would just like it's just weird because it's been 5 years since we sat in that 101 class and got taught
Hmm.
that basic information. And I even mentioned one-upmanship yesterday in this conversation.
Hmm.
Like, yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, because I've been digging around.
digging around your subconscious or digging
Yeah,
around
yeah.
the
Well, I've been digging around. Like, there's, um,
way.
that mystery about hypnosis. So I'm
Mm,
always kind of digging around in what people think and,
yeah.
what is real and what's not. Um, but I have noticed personally, and my research kind of backs it up, that the higher your authority, so your authority as a hypnotherapist has to match the suggestibility of the person.
Go ahead.
Meaning, yeah.
Go
So,
ahead.
well, don't be doubting Thomas here.
I'm here to
So,
listen.
your suggestibility, like if your suggestibility is high, your authority has to be high because apparently, allegedly, that somebody with a high suggestibility, now this might actually be backwards thinking, um, backwards meaning backwards to what we were taught, but somebody with a high suggestibility, meaning receptivity,
Hmm.
your authority needs to match that. So you have to come up even higher. So you're confident. So you can be the one-upman ship. That's first thing. The second thing I found that I thought was really, really interesting was in, this is strange, but in 1979, there was records from certain agencies that had the capability of, I want to say mind control, more like severe hypnosis type of situation, um,
Mhm.
where they could get this down in 45 minutes. Now, there is record of it, and I'm avoiding certain words for YouTube's purposes, but um, they could actually convince you to do certain acts in 45 minutes or less, which is slightly scary. Okay, hold on.
Certain acts. What can we
Certain
do?
acts,
Are we
um,
not able to define
violent
those and
acts,
violate the policies of YouTube?
violent acts. I'll say that
Ah,
violent acts. They could get
okay.
military people. They could
Hmm.
get military people to commit violent acts in 45 minutes or less. Now I can say what it is, like Manchurian Candidate or MK Ultra, like those types of things.
Hmm.
This is why people are so afraid of hypnosis, because they've been using it for years. However, the scarier part is um, how social media, the amount of time that people are on social media in a
Hmm.
day is somewhere upwards of 8 hours that they're on social media. Not maybe you, but the younger generation.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
If
full-time
you are
job.
on if you're on social media 8 hours, the algorithm is then programmed, whether the algorithm did it itself or somebody programmed it, to constantly get you to go up and then come back down. Do you understand? So you're going to see good things and then you're going to see something bad.
Interesting.
So within minutes, you're up and down like this, which
Hmm.
means you're up and down in hypnosis so many times, out, up, down, right?
Right.
So you are being hypnotized in a negative way by social media in such a short amount of time because of the algorithm.
Hmm.
So they can get you to do whatever you want. That's why you end up buying shit off of TikTok that you may not really need. Um, and I just found it really fascinating that, there's this negative connotation about hypnosis, or whether or not it's real. It's absolutely real. And the more people, kind of realize how real it is, used positively, is great. Like we could change your life, right?
Right.
But in the wrong hands, like the government, you get people that do things that you just shouldn't be doing.
Hmm.
So that, I'm just saying, because that's how suggestible people are. So in all this research, I found that they are saying that the more suggestible somebody is, if you have more authority over them, you'll get them to comply quicker.
Okay.
So compliance being,
Key.
number
Yeah.
two on the
Yeah.
list.
Right.
Um, you know, so yeah, there's my rant for the day. Know what you're actually doing when you're sitting on social media. They are hypnotizing you for a reason.
Yeah,
I'm
we've
just
we've
saying.
we've talked about this in and about ways, right? The doom scroll and that negative
Mm-hmm.
bias that we all kind of have and suffer from. Yeah, interesting that you've found outside sources to so you must have had a thought while I was sick and explored it. So here we are talking about it because like that's I haven't done any research on outside of like what we've been taught. That's interesting.
Well,
I've had experience and I did have jury duty last week before I got sick. Did I tell you
mm-hmm.
about this?
No.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been, because it's always the topic, right? Like, is it real? Yes, it's
Yeah.
real. What do you need for me to show you that it's real? Your compliance? Okay. Sit up straight. Okay. Swallow. Blink your eyes. Those are micro compliances. So, I mean, the research, it goes back 50, 60 years. And this is, of course, they don't want, the powers that be really don't want people to improve themselves because then they're not as compliant.
Yeah. Don't
So,
we don't certain circles would refer to that as the sheeple?
yes. So the sheeple,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm only being
Yeah, no,
nice
I'm
because
just
YouTube.
connecting some dots for some of our
Right. They
listeners
want
that
they want the masses to be compliant. They want the masses to be the sheeple. Go to
yeah.
CBT therapy, keep re-traumatizing yourself. Great. Keep doing that. That way you stay compliant.
Mm.
But if you actually want to improve your life, you have to find,
Huh.
a hypnotherapist with a decent moral compass. I mean, fighters use hypnotherapy. Tiger Woods uses a hypnotherapist. I mean, it was his caddy.
Yeah.
Roy Jones, who's a fighter, Mike Tyson, they all had hypnotherapists and literally create micro personality, like a micro personality. That person just kind of, they're ready to fight. They're desensitized to pain. They are desensitized to the adrenaline and dopamine rush, where they're just laser focused on, I'm not stopping until the bell rings and I win. And this is how they've done this. But
Hmm.
this is all taken out of, CIA research. Just saying.
Just saying. Just dropping bombs.
This is me today.
Yeah,
This is what
you're
happens
on
when you
fire.
leave me for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I had this thought. I'm going to supersede this desire to tell you what happened for me in jury duty. I didn't get picked. None of us did, but they had us watch this video. But I want to talk about what really just came up is I had somebody reach out to me through my profile on the American Hypnosis Association, asking if I could help them. And he was looking for a male hypnotherapist that accepted insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back and forth with him a little bit and just kind of explained in general that most, unless you're working under a doctor's license, there's no medical code, right? So the way that insurance works is your doctor has a code for whatever you came in for that they send to the insurance company that say, okay, yeah, you can, we'll that's allowed to be
Mm-hmm.
covered, right? It's all
Right,
about
because
that
they can put it
almighty
in the.
code. And after this introduction to our topic today that you've just shared, I immediately thought, well, that's why they won't give us an insurance code because we could actually help people. And uh,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. This is absolutely why. Like, and they need to discredit it, and they being the government needs to discredit it not only because it can help people, but because they don't want anybody doing what they're doing, which is really not helping people.
yeah.
They are keeping
Well,
people
they're
as
not trying
sheeple
to
by
help
program.
people. They're trying to
That's what I'm
control.
saying.
Yeah,
They're keeping you
it's the
that way
programming. Yeah,
through the algorithm now of social media. If
yeah.
you're averaging on a whole, you're averaging 8 hours on social media. They've got you because the fractionation of it is they you come up, you see all these great videos, and then all of a sudden it's a sad video. So that's the deeper part. And then they got you coming back up, eyes open, eyes closed. It's
Interesting.
the same thing. Yeah, I fell into the deep, dark research hole. This
Yeah,
is
see,
what
I
happens
I
when you leave me
don't.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah, so
I
okay.
got bored.
It's my fault. Awesome.
It's your
Great.
fault. I'm
Yeah.
blaming you. I got bored and then I started to have to learn some stuff.
Perfect. Nice. Yeah. Meanwhile, I show up for jury duty and they do
Okay,
the have you been, I'm assuming you've been called, like everybody's
I
at
have.
least been called. Nobody got questioned. They literally went and we were there for about 3 hours or so.
Mm-hmm.
And they came back and said that there's no ongoing cases that require our participation. So they released us all. But while that we were waiting for that, they showed a video.
Of course.
Well, I posted this on the HMI page. Did you happen to see the post that I posted about?
No.
Yeah. So they start this video and it's from the state of California, like the Superior Court, like this major person introduced it and they this was about they were
Doing it right.
worried this is ways to guide potential jurors um, to be mindful of what they called the unconscious bias.
Hmm.
And as I've talked about
They
this,
are then doing the unconscious bias. But go ahead.
yeah. So, but what I found fascinating was, knowing the language that I know, that we know, right, in our world, they didn't call it the subconscious, but they went on to explain that the unconscious can process 10 million bits of information per second. Take a
Yeah.
wild guess what they said that the conscious mind can process.
100,000.
40 to 50 bits
Mm.
of information per second.
I would guess that they're wrong, but okay.
It was I Googled it and I found a
Did
study
they
that
say
backs it
40?
up. Yeah, there are
Yeah.
scientific estimates, of course, that the unconscious can process 11 million bits of information per second, while the conscious mind can only process about 40 or 50 per second. Which for me, it lines up with subconscious 95% runs the show, conscious
Did you?
5%. It's just very interesting the
Mm.
parallels of
Oh, that
here
in that sense, yes,
here's
I
the
agree with you.
government admitting that
The
it's about the
government,
subconscious programming. They can call it unconscious, which is, this idea of that it's unknown, like that, the subconscious knows, but the unconscious are these unaware images and thoughts and whatnot. I just thought it was fascinating.
well, your mammalian brain doesn't speak English, you know, but
Right.
it does speak.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to your patterns. It speaks in pattern recognition.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to find out. Did you write down that you're a hypnotherapist?
I didn't even get questioned or nothing. They didn't
Oh,
ask me for any like, nothing. All I did was write my name and phone number down on my jury page that to get credit for showing up. That's it.
oh,
No one
I
was
would love,
interviewed. There was no
they would not
breakout
take you in a
rooms. There was
second.
nothing. Like we literally sat around for 3.5 hours and they came back and said, okay, good news. There are
They would
no
not take you in a second.
Huh? Well,
They
I've
would,
heard conflicting because that post generated a little bit of dialogue, and I've heard conflicting. I've heard people say, "Oh, just tell them you're a hypnotherapist. They'll immediately escort you,"
dismiss
and
you.
other people have said, "No, that's not the case. Always, it depends on the court, I guess, and the people that are in charge. I don't know. It's not a slam dunk." And then I got my brother. So my brother, like right before I left, he had to report, and he's like, "Yeah, I just tell him I'm an eye for an eye guy." Like,
That does work, by the way.
right. Yeah. Um, and then it was funny. I had my own personal experience with it all. And I was like, as much as I don't, I'm self-employed. So like taking a week off to make $43 a day as a juror is like not going to support me.
There's plenty of people on unemployment that could use that $60 a day.
Yeah. Or whatever it is. Right. So I was thinking
Hmm.
though, as I was processing this idea of, okay, well, when asked questions, I'll answer honestly. I'm not going to try and steer the boat, so to speak. And the
Right.
more I thought about it, the more I thought like actually it would be a good juror because I am open to I can be uh, my thoughts can be changed with the right information and the way it's presented. I just thought it was just an interesting experience, but was what was most interesting was this idea of 90% of what we know, which
Oh,
is
yes.
our
In
bias.
that sense, yes.
Yeah.
I
So our
agree
bias,
100%.
which they literally called them, what I wrote it down, what they called them, um, not known associations, they called them unconscious associations. So that, as an example, I used this in the session the other day. I said, so as an example, if you maybe you got beat up when you were like 8 or 9 by a kid in glasses. You probably are predisposed to anybody that shows up in your life wearing glasses. You just immediately have a bias against people wearing glasses because you have that attachment, that emotional anchor to getting beat up by somebody in glasses. So right out of the gates, you have an unconscious bias towards that as an
Hmm.
example, right? And
Absolutely.
for the sake of the courtroom, the purpose of this is my opinion is that they want people that are going to be able to like look past that aren't going to be anchored by that bias that they have, right? And that bias shows up in all sorts of different ways: race, creed, religion, like all of the things. When we talk about equality of the people, right? There's everybody has biases. Nobody's impervious. Even the most woke people on the planet have a bias. They have a bias
Absolutely.
against the unwoke, you know?
Well,
So
yeah.
I just thought that
Well,
was fascinating based on the fact that you're talking about what you're talking about today. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and because really, can we pause? I don't know if everyone is on in line with remembering us talking about suggestibility and before. Like,
Mhm.
what would you say your definition of suggestibility is?
My definition of suggestibility, what do you mean?
What,
As a fizz or an emo?
no, just yeah. So now you're throwing out terms that again our
Sorry,
audience isn't really
I don't know
familiar with.
what you're asking me.
I'm saying like so suggestibility is a common word for us in our profession,
Hmm.
but it's not a street term that most people are to, oh yeah, man, I'm super
Yeah.
suggestible, that lady. Like
You know what? Now I
I
have to think
explain it.
about
I
what
know you explain it in your first session.
I do, but you tell
So
me what
what's your
your explanation.
explanation of it?
No, you
That's what
tell
I'm
me.
asking for. I'm giving you the floor,
Um,
girl.
so suggestibility is the way we learn stuff. It's how we learn, you know. It's it's the things that we like quickly. That's kind of how I say it.
Nice.
Um, yeah, it's not like, oh, I have to wonder. No, no. These are known things that we really, really like. The things, how we learn them, and we
Hmm.
get it from your primary caregiver.
There you go.
Yeah. Jump into the middle of my talk track. Thank you. You put me on the spot and catch up there for a second. Um,
And just to mess with you, I'm going to interrupt you and say that I like to flex the new C in our titles, the
mhm,
clinical,
mhm.
the C that stands for clinical, and I like to say that suggestibility is a clinical term for how we learn. And just like
Absolutely.
I love the examples. I'm curious to hopefully this is part of your talk track. Like, what examples do you like to use? I've got a new one that I've started using that I think is just awesome, and it really clarifies the difference between. And I don't ever say emo and fizz, ever. Nobody has no idea what we're talking about. And even if you said physical and emotional, they'd go emotional. Like I'm not emotional. I think I'm pretty like
Okay, so
there's too much
here,
confusion
I'll
with those terms, so I don't ever use them myself.
so sometimes depending on who I'm talking to,
Uh-huh.
I will throw in the emo and fizz um as part of the overload.
Okay.
And at that point, they're like, well, what is she even saying? But then I'm going to ask you to do something like, could you just scoot over a little bit? Because I'm looking for compliance, but overload at the same time. So the
Hmm.
more difficult they are, the more stuff I have to say so that
Fair.
they, um, yeah. So it depends on who I'm talking to. So,
So you don't
um,
say like that the way we learn, many people are very direct. They prefer the direct approach, whereas other people prefer kind of the inference style.
no, I do say that.
Okay, I figured you
I
did.
do.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
leading the witness a little here, but
A little bit,
uh,
but yeah,
yeah,
no.
I'm just chomping at the
Sometimes
bit to tell you my new example that I'm just
so tell
tickled
me, I
over.
want
It's
to
just so
know.
simple, and I go because I get people that maybe have heard about hypnosis or maybe that their father quit smoking using it 20 years ago, or they really have
Mhm.
no concept about what it is other than the Hollywood version or
So
the stage version, which are neither of those are helpful to us. They
go
use the
ahead.
same technique, which is suggestibility, which is how people learn and take information. But go ahead.
Nope, go for it. Finish what
No,
you're saying so that I can tell you.
I want to hear what you have to say.
So, it's actually a question.
Okay.
Have you have you ever been in a comedy show? Have you sat as an audience member at a comedy show?
I've actually been picked and on stage. There's video of me at
I
HMI
know. I've
being
seen
on.
it.
Okay, why are you asking me that? Are you just being
I'm asking you about a
facetious?
comedy show, not at HMI.
I've been to that same Glenn, right? Who we both know. Didn't
Oh,
you
okay.
go? He did some show I didn't get picked
No,
for that,
no, I
but
go.
I went to an actual bar that served
Okay.
alcohol to people that wanted to be hypnotized. Yes, because
Okay.
they were there for the
So,
hypnotist show. Go ahead.
so when you're in a comedy show,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people say that is a form of hypnosis.
Oh, it
So
absolutely is.
comedy improv.
I don't disagree. I don't argue that it's not. I don't think it's helpful to us because it creates an image of a story that's get passed on. It's
Yeah,
kind of
no,
like
no, no.
telephone tag. Like you heard somebody that told somebody else that you're friends with about going to a bar to see a comic who also was a hypnotist who made people bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken or quack like a
Mm-hmm.
duck or run
Mm-hmm.
around tearing their top off because they're so hot.
But I
That's what
heard
I'm
it
talking
said
about.
in a very interesting way when, from a comedian's perspective,
Hmm.
they were saying it's like you're acquiescing and letting somebody else kind of use your brain because
You're giving
if
up absolute control of yourself. Yeah.
you're right
You're
and you
uber
might be
suggestible to
laughing,
them. Yeah.
you're uber suggestible, and you actually might be laughing at stuff you wouldn't laugh at by yourself.
Yeah.
So that, then comes the study of, like, if there's 10 people sitting in a room and you come walking in and everybody's going to pick, let's say there's a picture, three different pictures of lines,
Okay.
and you have to pick the longest one, the picture with the longest line, and
Okay.
10 people in that room have already picked it in front of you, you will acquiesce and pick what they pick. Everybody says no and everybody acquiesces
Hmm. Okay.
because there's a tribal mentality.
Okay.
Just like when you're sitting in like a comedy show, you may not think something is as funny as you are actually laughing at it, but it's because you're in that environment. A, you're in hypnosis, you are suggestible. B, it is tribal, and
Hmm.
acceptance, which
Okay.
is a huge human like
That is
need.
not my, I'm not arguing all of that as my position of why it's not helpful to us as clinical
Oh, I'm
hypnotherapists.
not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not
I thought
arguing
you
with yours.
were. I thought you were
No,
defending it, saying, no,
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 no, no, no, no,
yeah,
no, no.
okay. All right.
I'm just saying that this is that a comedian had made the comment that it's like who has been hypnotized made the connection between being a participant, like sitting in a comedy show, and
Uh-huh.
being hypnotized. They felt the same way. And they were just reinforcing the fact that hypnosis is real,
Right.
unlike,
Okay.
the naysayer.
Understood.
That's all.
Okay. Cool, cool. I'll accept it.
Oh, I'm glad you accept it.
Uh, that's so funny. Yeah. Uh, and then I was been preparing to teach a class on the theory of mind, and I'm like literally. So I've also been sitting in on and partaking in being a 101 practicum
Mm-hmm.
assistant,
Mm-hmm.
um, which has been fascinating in itself, right? Because I keep getting re-exposed to this information that's the foundation of everything that you and I learned,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know about you if you're willing to admit it. Anybody from HMI, just stop listening for a second, go to the kitchen. Like my talk track around a pre-induction and theory of mind is so far away from what we were taught at HMI. I mean, it still has the basis of the structure, but my talk track around it is completely conversational now.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
as I was preparing, I was like, there's some really good information in here that I don't say anymore because I'm so busy doing my speech, so to speak,
Hmm.
right?
Well, it has to
Um,
become your own talk track, I
Yes, of
think.
course it does, right? And it,
And
but
I mean,
that
as long as
that that has changed over each year, though, haven't you noticed? Right?
oh,
Like that first
absolutely.
year, you're just like reading it word for word because you're
Yeah,
so
clicking them off.
nervous, right? And then maybe after, you get the plaques and you graduate top of the class, and you think you know your thing or two, your one-upmanship kind of sinks in, and you're like, yeah, I'm a badass. That's right. I know what I'm doing.
Watch this.
And then that comfort, I think, allows for a natural transition into bringing yourself to it. Interesting
Yeah.
enough, and I don't know what the correlation here is. Maybe your big brain can chew on this, but I've noticed that there's so much more creativity with these students today than from our group. And by creativity,
Well,
I mean like people, they're like literally in 101 practicing an arm raising, and they're like, can I make this my own? And I'm like, well, for the
no.
purpose of this class, as an HMI instructor, I'm going to tell you, oh, HMI people, you can come back now. I'm going to tell you that this is what you're supposed to stick to. But I will tell you, as Don, the clinical hypnotherapist, that is a working hypnotherapist, it'll become your own over time, and it'll continue to evolve. It's just
Continuously.
fascinating noticing that I did with and it wasn't just one person that like has kind of, how at HMI they attract people that are kind of in that realm already, and some,
Hmm.
whether they're a spiritual coach or they're a Reiki master, they're a massage, they're in the healing kind of mindful world already. And it
Hmm.
seems like the transition into becoming a hypnotherapist is a little bit smoother, as
Hmm.
I think I've got like 10 mentees, and there's just a sprinkling of differences there, where some of them are not catching on until like 501, because they're just overwhelmed, whereas others are already making it their own and stepping into it and comfortable with
I,
it. It's just fascinating to bear witness to.
I think it has to do with Zoom because when we were
It
in
is the great
person,
equalizer in our profession right now, for sure. Not
it's a
everybody is
little,
gifted on Zoom, that's for sure.
well, I mean, I'm thinking back to, 101, 201. You're uncomfortable, but when you're on Zoom, you're in your own comfort.
Yeah.
So I think that might be why you're seeing a little more creativity and somebody
That's a
wanting to
that's
take a
a
little more
that is
license.
an astute noticing and point. I love that. I love your brain.
Thank
Yeah.
you. um, but I definitely agree with over time, it will, even though you have all the foundation of
Yeah.
what you need, um, I think the way you do it will be different. Just
Yeah.
like, I mean, Kat is different than Joe, and
Sure.
Cheryl. Well,
Absolutely.
Cheryl's the only one you can't say that about.
No, Cheryl is
She's
and Melton.
absolutely straight
Although
down the middle.
although so they just released a bunch of news recordings of the senior instructors on Zoom.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
Melton does this pre-induction for a vaping client, and
Hmm.
it definitely, I literally transposed the whole thing because I literally created his script from it. I did that in a smoking cessation program as well. I
Right.
literally paused, wrote, paused. This is before I knew you could
Yeah.
open up a Word doc and press the recording button and just have the Word doc listen to the presentation and literally write
Hmm.
it for you. And it was just fascinating. He hit the high points, but he
Yeah. As,
also steered it towards the fact that it was a vaping client, that and I know, knowing his program, that this was somebody that wasn't going for a one session quit. He was going to reduce based on John's intake of them and how much
right.
of the
Right.
juice that he was ingesting on a weekly daily basis. So it was just fascinating to see John kind of just on
Veer.
Zoom first and foremost, right? Not a recording
Well,
of him being live on Zoom, but do you know what I
I
mean?
think I do, but I think the what makes a really great hypnotherapist is when they can kind of move with what needs to be done. If you're so rigid and
Yeah,
really, like really rigid,
right.
because I don't even think Cheryl's that rigid, but if you read, these are the 10 things and you need to click these off, I think you're going to come up against a problem if that's the only thing you've ever done. Because then if I took that away from you,
And it takes away the uniqueness of the person that's in front of you.
and I'm not saying you shouldn't have those 10 qualifying things. I'm saying you should be able to say them in your way,
Right.
because then your
Yeah.
authenticity comes out, and then you're going to one up again with your own, with your
Yeah.
own style and your own confidence. Because if
We're
you're
in
just
agreement.
repeating shit, yeah,
We're in
like,
100% agreement. Yeah. It's
oh,
just been fascinating
not,
that all of this is kind of like I'm just experiencing it in a different way than I have before because I don't
yeah,
usually sit in on other people. Like the practicums, we pop in the breakout rooms and I'll do a little coaching and I'll observe and like offer, if somebody's got a question, obviously I'm going to answer it. But we just kind of let them do their thing. And as long as they're kind of staying in line with what they're supposed to do,
right.
it's just something I've been
You just
noticing.
distract them.
So here's the thing that really floored me as I was looking at the 101 uh, theory of mind, and I haven't been saying this in the way that it's said in the documentation that the students are receiving now, which is that um, and you're probably going to laugh and feel free to take a shot at me, but I don't say that we're so suggestible when we're born, right? So that 0 to 8 timeline when we're collecting those known associations, right? It's because we're so suggestible, we take everything in as fact, and that's why they become those knowns. So I say a version of that, but not the way that that is said. And I don't know. It just like it's so powerful and so true. And then,
Mm-hmm.
terms like life script have evolved. That's not in the 101 documentation, but it's definitely something I like to talk about. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so go ahead. I can see you biting your lip over there. Go ahead. What do you got?
No, I'm
For those
listening.
of you listening and not watching us, but by the way, I highly suggest you watch us. We're very attractive people and entertaining in person. So feel free to go over to the old
I
YouTube if
mean,
you're if
my
you're an
face can
Apple
tell you a
person.
whole story
Oh
without me
boy,
even
can it?
opening my mouth.
Yeah, we are
It's
not
the
poker
known
players.
thing. I mean, if you know, then you know. Like,
Here's my imitation of my best friend Tina at HMI. You could tell when Tina was leaning in to unmute to come unglued on somebody. The telegram would be right here in the face first, but then there'd be this just kind of this squelching of emotion as you were leaning in. And your finger wasn't up in the screen, but I knew when you were I could tell when you were like right there. Yeah. Yeah.
as soon as I,
Yep. Just those wonderful memories. Just like, uh-oh, here we go. Here
you're,
we go. Yeah. So go ahead, unmute her. What do you got?
now I don't even remember.
It's I no, but I was just it's just fascinating to me that like I'm having like a renewal of basic
Mm,
information that I'm making part of kind of my speech now because like with this guy that was Uber, like he was one-upping me. He was the first client that's ever said to me, like he signed all this paperwork and then he actually signed his son up. I sold him a package for himself and his son. Out of the goodness of my heart, I gave him a pretty significant discount. Um, and so he signed all this paperwork and had his son sign and then he's like, he's like, he sends me this Neville Goddard thing. And he's like, I want to do sessions like every day. I want to do 1, 2, 3. I want to do 3 in a row. And I'm like, that's not my experience on how this works. This isn't like you're gonna do a bunch of what's the term I'm looking for? Geez Louise. Affirmations. It's not like we're going to pound affirmations into your mind. This is different. You have to give a little bit of time for the subconscious to process that which you've experienced in the first session before you jump into the second. It was just so he was just, and I don't think he was doing it on purpose. I think it was just a natural way of him kind of standing up for his own brilliance while he's in a Zoom room asking me for help. Like it's just, but it was just interesting.
crazy.
So I found myself over preparing to one up
Hmm.
this individual, and it went well. It went extremely well, of course, but it was it's just a really trippy experience. So it's interesting that you wanted to kind of talk about suggestibility today. So, okay. So
Yeah.
I said, word for word, I said, which caused you to want to lean in. I could see you literally biting your lip. I said that in the 101 booklet for theory of mind that 0 to 8 period is when we're taking in what is called these known associations to we like chocolate cake, we don't like spinach. We like kisses and hugs, we don't like
Learning
spanking and
literally.
getting yelled at, right?
Hmm.
But there's this sentence that says during this period we take it in as fact because we're so suggestible, and I
Hmm.
feel like so that was the reminder to you to whatever you wanted to say, and I feel like that's more prevalent now, like we're way past 8 years old, right? We're like some of us are
Hmm.
40 or 50 years past being 8 years old. But because of what you talked about earlier about the high
Hmm.
and the low and the high and the programming that's happening, they didn't have
Hmm.
that before. They had
Mm-mm.
commercials though. Boy, we all programmed, you know, well, Mikey doesn't like it. Like
Right.
there's so many
Right.
infamous commercials. Yeah. Anyway, so what were you gonna say about that little statement I made about facts and we're so suggestible? Go ahead.
Well, I usually say that you're literally learning it literally. I don't say factually, but I say literally so many times.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reason really is because
Which is fascinating
until
considering you've got a group of people that are identifying as emo, aka people that prefer inference, not direct. But when you're young like
right,
that, you're so suggestible, it doesn't matter. It's almost like you're
right,
somnambulist, I think, without saying
because
somnambulist.
your brain is it's in theta state,
Right.
and that's when you're learning like that.
The learning
Whenever
state.
you
That's another buzzword they use. Yep. They are educators.
yeah, but that's why theta state. And if you're trying to um if you have a lot of stuff to read or to remember, if you can get in theta state, whether it's listening to music or some light hypnosis,
Hmm.
you'll learn it much faster. But it is a literal state, and that's how I've always said it is. But before 8 years old, you're literally learning, literally, like Santa's real.
Yeah.
Santa is real. Toothberry is real.
Fully bought in. Every kid,
At least until like between 6, 8, and 10. There's somewhere in there, depending on your culture,
depending
your
on what
parents, whatever,
happens, I stumbled across a
brothers,
bunch of
sisters,
gifts down in
whatever,
our basement, and I was like,
whatever.
and then I saw
He
them under
came
the
early.
tree, to Donnie from Santa. I was like, man, I was crushed.
Oh,
Santa's
yeah,
not real.
yeah.
Yeah.
You have to believe in something. But um, yeah. So learning literally, that's what I usually say, and that's you're going to learn also the way you learn is from your mother. That's primary caregiver.
Yeah.
That
For
is the
most of
same
us.
time
Absolutely. Yep.
for most of us. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Want my
I
example
mean,
yet?
sure. Go ahead.
Because it made me, well, I used to use the example of my mom. I like to be personable with my clients. They seem to respond to that. We all have our own
Hmm.
styles, right? And I used to say that, so I was spanked. My generation was spanked a lot, and my mom would be very direct most of the time and be like, "I'll go get your father's belt right now if you don't simmer down, young man." Right? That's very direct, very very literal. Whereas
Hmm.
other times she would be at her own wits end with me and like, "Wait till your father gets home." To somebody that prefers direct communication, that's torture. Like, what does that mean? Wait till my father gets home. That could mean a plethora of things, right? That's what I used to say, and like I started to like think like maybe that's not the most positive example of my own personal trauma, but it is what it is.
It gives
So
you
so
something to connect with.
it does. So here's what I've been using lately, which I think is just super keen. So if you were someone that preferred inference, not very
Hmm.
direct, right? And I said
Hmm.
to you, I'll call you tomorrow afternoon. You'd be like, cool, talk to you tomorrow. But if
Hmm.
you were a direct person, and I said, I'll call you tomorrow afternoon,
What
like my
time?
mom saying, wait till your father gets home. That's torture. Like when? What
What time?
afternoon? That could be 1, 4. I got plans at 2. Like that's
Hmm.
all happening in your mind because you're not being presented in the way you prefer to learn.
Hmm. This
What
is
do you
why
think about that?
relationships break down.
Huh?
This is
Yeah.
why relationships
That's
break
why the
down.
love language is so important that we got I think we did some pretty good work there on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. But that is why, I mean, that's like the number one thing why relationships break apart is because you might be saying the same thing, but you're not hearing the same thing. You're not even saying it the same, really.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'll call you tomorrow. You know, depends on how much I like you, where I'm going to say what time. It's a joke.
I understand. Yeah.
What time?
And the reality is that nobody is 100% anything. You started off talking about high suggestibles, and you were inferring high suggestible, either direct or indirect, right? Emo or
Hmm.
fizz.
I was actually saying more receptivity, not suggestibility on the Capucinian scale, just
Uh,
suggestible to
okay.
information.
All right.
This is how they're saying it, by the way. When I say
I say
they,
that I'm very suggestible. I have to be very mindful about who I let in and around my thinking.
right? So somebody would have to have high authority to come at you. That it has to match.
Interesting, the types of people I attract in my life that have that high authority. You're one of them.
Just
Yeah. My
saying.
sister. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like it is a real thing. I didn't make this shit up. Okay. I went out looking for it.
Kudos
I
to
didn't
you.
just work it
Yeah.
all out in my head like, oh, I'm going to say this. No, this is like
Okay.
there's some a little bit of information that
Yeah.
they have withheld from you know the DSM, the powers that be, because then it would be really effective.
Right.
And it's not measurable, so they can't charge it on insurance. Like in order to have something on insurance like CBT, they want it from, oh, can you fix it in 12 sessions? Well, according to CBT, yeah, sure, they could fix it.
Mm.
No, they can't. I'm nice days are over.
Wow.
We're not
Wow.
sugarcoating today.
Okay, cool.
I'm
I'm okay with that. I
just
feel
saying,
like this
like
could
these
turn
are the
into
realities.
like another like I think we're like an hour now already. Like that was fast. I like talking
Mm-hmm.
about this topic. This is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we need to kind of keep going and do another episode, like part 2 of this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think
Mm-hmm.
about I had a thought about and then I had a conflicting thought about providing people the link to the suggestibility questionnaire so they could find out what they are and what the hell we're talking about. But then I thought, well, but if they're if they're going to reach out to either of us to hire us, I personally, if you're my friend, I'll send you the link because if
Yeah.
you want to find out for yourself, like I sent Carrie the link, right?
Right.
But if you were going to be my client, I want to administer that questionnaire as
Right.
part of your first session.
Right.
So I'm on the fence. I know we probably should have talked about this off air, but like, what do you think?
Oh, well, I think that I agree with you. Like I
Hold
don't
the
give it
phones.
out.
Ladies and gentlemen, on Women's Day, a woman just agreed with me. Just want to make a brilliant, strong woman just agreed
Thank
with me.
you.
Woohoo! That's all. That's a mic drop moment for me over here.
It's a great moment for you, right?
Yeah, the 2 magic words that every man dreams of hearing. You're right.
You're right. There you go. You're right. You're right. You know what they say,
Yeah.
no matter what you think about something, you're probably right. Let that
Yeah.
sink in.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you got in closing?
Um, Yeah, I think I'm just on this mission to say that it just I just don't like the negative um
I think that's what we have to talk
connotation.
about again next week. I think we have to
Yeah.
go. I think we have to go a little bit. Maybe we can pull some of the key questions out
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and give them to our audience to
Mm-hmm.
contemplate and maybe um they could answer in the chat
Yeah.
on our posts, right? About,
Mm-hmm.
because there's like I think 4 or 5 questions we can ask people and we can figure out if they're emo fizz or somnambulist just on those five,
Mm-hmm.
right? Pretty
Absolutely.
simple. But then I think what I hear you saying is that you want to talk about the thing that's been bugging me a little bit is this there's still this
Negative.
tiny little stigmatism towards that word hypnosis. And
Well,
my
and
experience
here's
is it's because people don't understand it.
A,
So
they don't
you will
understand it,
judge
and
that which you don't understand. Go ahead. Sorry.
yes, they don't understand it, but here's the deal. You're being told that it doesn't work by people that actually know it does work.
Are using it on you.
They're using it on you and they're telling you it doesn't work.
Talk
But
about
yet,
irony.
I
Holy
promise
shit.
you,
Yeah.
you spend quite a bit of your time in
How
hypnosis,
you talk about what is it? Art imitating life or life imitating art? What's that saying
life
about like
imitating art.
yeah. And you
Mm.
think about just movies depicting hypnosis as
I'm
control,
so
mind
sick of it.
control.
Well,
But that's exactly
be,
what they're doing with their own
but that's it. Like
programming.
they are programming you to think that it doesn't work so that you don't fix yourself so they can't program you.
It's a good thing we don't have a million subscribers yet because we would get shut down with this information being shared.
I don't know about that.
You
I
think
don't know about that.
this is gonna gonna let it's gonna be okay to be on social media? You think so? That's
Why
where the
not? They let all that
programming
other
is.
shit on there.
Yeah.
I know, but they let all that other shit on there. Like, and when I say shit, I mean shit. Like it's crap that they are programming you with, and they're doing it deliberately.
Yeah.
The dumber the population is, the easier it is to control. I mean, did we not all read Animal Farm?
And I was talking about this. Remember the movie with Roddy Piper with the special sunglasses where he could see the aliens and
No.
alive, I think it's called. I can't remember the name of it. I got to find out because I was talking about this with one of my clients because they brought it up and yeah, it's like with these special glasses, if in Times Square he could see without the glasses, he would see, Nestle Quick, it's quicker than, or what all the advertisements. But then if you put these sunglasses on, he could see control, mind control,
It's
consumer,
true.
all the truth behind.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we have to go and go to a stage hypnotist and like document what we see covertly?
Glenn
Like,
is doing, I don't know if you saw this.
I don't want to call Glenn out.
Huh?
I'd rather call somebody else out. Like, I
No,
mean,
Glenn's doing a show where he's going to train people on quick inductions for stage purposes.
oh
And
yeah, I've
but it's at 9 in the morning on a Sunday, and I'm like, I just can't be.
I've already done that. I didn't go to the show, but I've done the class.
Oh, you did? Yeah. I'd just be curious just to hear his take on it.
What's that say back there? Oh, I'm in rare form today.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, you said you did, and I said, "What's that say back there?" I'm just
I'm
in rare
sorry,
form.
I can't let this go. They live.
They live. Okay.
Oh my God. If you want your mind to be blown, watch that movie. Oh boy.
Fun fact:
Yeah.
somebody that is not skeptical doesn't have any eye wrinkles.
Hmm.
Your face is your
Because of
billboard.
that. That's the
Skeptical,
squinting you do when you're thinking.
where you're thinking,
Interesting.
yeah, they
Judging. Yeah.
don't have any
Surmising.
eye wrinkles.
Interesting.
I,
All right.
your forehead, your face is literally the billboard to your emotion. Your your subconscious emotional like processing. Think about it. I mean, I'm a really good example because my face will tell the entire damn story.
Uh-huh.
Um, so we could do a study on that if you like, but
Hmm.
um,
I feel like I
yes.
did that already.
But no, this is what I'm saying. Like, somebody that isn't skeptical doesn't have any, fine lines
Where'd that
around their eyes.
where'd that nugget of biological information come from there,
Oh,
Miss Orlando?
I have lots of them.
Okay.
But here's how I know, because that's what some hypnotists. Now, there's a
Uh-huh.
difference between a hypnotist and a hypnotherapist, but some hypnotists, that's what they're looking for. Is if you
Ah,
don't have this, that's one of the tells.
interesting.
So I just giving you a little,
All right.
I,
Thank you for
I,
that. Yeah.
you're welcome,
All right. So, class, your homework is to go watch They Live
class.
and come back next week.
Go to work, see how many people have lines. Like if they
Yeah, and
have no
that too.
lines,
That too.
they're
Um,
suggestible.
yeah. All right. Well, I've enjoyed this. I missed it. I'm at the end
Yes.
of my talking. Like I could usually last about an hour before my throat starts to hurt
Okay.
again. Yeah. So
All
you want
right.
to close this out?
Our subconscious speaks. The question is, are you listening?
All right. Thanks very much. Love ya.
Love ya.
Bye all.